Hello, Joy Brooks with Email and Coffee. Today, I'm talking with Kirsten Jacobsen, who can guide you through building a secure financial future, one well-considered step at a time. Our conversation is diversified with practical advice, emphasizes self-reliance, and champions proactive planning. And now, Kirsten Jacobsen. And hello, Joy Brooks with Email and Coffee. I'm speaking with Kirsten Jacobsen. Kirsten, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm here in Burbank, California, Los Angeles, if you don't know Burbank. I've been here for a few years. We call it the city wrapped in bubble wrap, because this is where all the movie studios are. And yeah, I have 2 teenagers, been married.
At least 10 years.
26 years? Yeah, 26. Maybe not. Yeah, we're just going to go with that.
That's
2
a good number. I like that.
I have a 15-year-old daughter, 18-year-old son, and I own a financial services agency. Oh, I've got 2 dogs, 2 pit bulls. Yes, my fur babies. Love dogs. And I own a financial services agency. I teach people financial education and show people how to save systematically and how to grow their wealth, how to build a wealth foundation, and save in places where they might not think of saving in, to make sure that they're saving in certain environments that they're not taxed in. That's my passion. That's what I love to do. Is I love to serve and I love to help, and this is one way that I do that.
I don't think that we can ever know enough about this, and it's usually something that young people, even middle-aged people, especially women, don't think about. Men sometimes do. They'll play around with investments because it's like a game to them, and they can, it's like gambling. But although it's like gambling, it's not. It really shouldn't be a gamble. Not, maybe when you're younger. And when I say by that, I mean the riskier methods that make the money you do younger. So what types do you do any not conferences, but do you meet with lots of people and do broader events that provide people with general knowledge, or are you more of a one-on-one?
That's a great question. I do both. As a matter of fact, I have a masterclass coming up Thursday, March 14th. It's at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so 1 o'clock Eastern Standard. And I'm co-hosting with a wonderful person that I met, networking, of course. That's why we network. And yeah, I'm going to be doing a general overview of finances. I'm setting up that program right now just to kind of keep it simple, really, is what it's about. Is a lot of women tend to be overwhelmed. They're like, oh, I don't deal with that. My husband deals with that. Where it's flipped in my family, right? My husband always says, oh, my wife handles all of the finances. But in actuality, I've forced him to take a step back and be more involved with it, because guess what? We're not guaranteed tomorrow. And we need to both be a team when it comes to our finances. And when you're in a partnership, you have to both be involved. Yes, am I more involved? Yes. Do I handle the payments and the majority of everything, our investments, our savings? I absolutely do. But what I've done is force us to sit down and have the uncomfortable conversations about our budget, about our income and where it's going and where do we see ourselves a year from now. And that's what a lot of people miss out on. Even single moms, single dads, widows, they're missing out on taking that overview and what their finances are doing.
It's not just good enough to put it in the bank. So obviously you run a service like this, but in general for people, when it's time for them to think about this, the first thing they do is get all jammed up. But what would you recommend people to do when they're thinking about finances? Like, do they
Talk
go
to
to a big
someone.
company? Talk with somebody.
Talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody you
Two.
trust. Talk to somebody you know. Talk to somebody that somebody refers you to. I got a client this week, um, but from a referral. I know this gentleman's mom. I've networked with her. um, she texted me. She said, "Hey, I need you to sit down with my son. He's got questions." And I was like, "Glad to." She put us on a three-way text, and the rest is history. Now I have a client who's under the age of 25, and he is saving systematically because he saw the value. And I said, "You're going to surpass your friends. Over the next 10 years, you will surpass your friends." He's got goals, right? His goal is to be retired by the time he's 43. And I said, "Well, how do we get you there?" Right? So that's what you need to do. Sit down with somebody, ask questions,
Mm.
um, get curious, and become the steward of your money that you need to be. I meet with a lot of people, and they're like, "Oh, we just let it go. I'm paycheck to paycheck, and that's how I live my life." And I'm like, "All right." Right?
Yeah,
Because
but I think for some people there's a fear of the Bernie Madoff, right?
Mm.
Where like, do I go with a person, or do I go to my bank, or do I ask my lawyer? Like, do I have a lawyer? Like, what, this is, if if you're working for a company, the odds are they're going to have something for you. That's not necessarily the best in the world, but they may have something. So something is better than nothing. But for me, as a freelancer, as a consultant, I had nothing, and I had to create my own. So I went through a John Hancock, a number of different, there were a few different agencies that I went through um, to be custodians. And that's sort of what I'm talking about. How do people find the right custodian?
Mm.
Obviously, you're one of those, but you can't be there for everyone. So, is there any tip that you could give to people so that they don't give their money to Bernie Madoff?
Um, an interesting story. I actually have a client whose mom, in the last years of her life, was living with her. It wasn't supposed to be that way. Her mom had saved a lot of money and was really good at saving. She had her own business. She was one of the top pattern makers and seamstresses in her arena, and she had sold her business, and she had someone at American Express. I guess back in the day, there was advisors at American Express. There still might be, um, and he was money under management. That just means you pay somebody a fee, and they manage your money, certain investments. They'll take it, put it here, put it there. Um, and he had put all of her eggs in one basket. And she told him multiple times, "I'm concerned about having all of my money in this company called Enron." And he said, "Oh, it's going to
Notice my
be
face.
great. It's going to be fantastic. This is it." And well,
We
we
all know
know
what
what
happened to Enron.
happened. She lost everything. At 60 plus years of age, 70 years old almost, she had to go back to work at Home Depot. Um, just to make ends meet, right? And how terribly tragic is that? That somebody just wouldn't listen to her and her concerns. Um, so just to circle back and answer the question, um, ask for referrals. You know people like people like Joy, you know your neighbors. Hey, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? Um, and can you refer me to someone? Just to ask questions, right? Um, and do that. Get curious. Get curious as to what your money's doing. That's all I did was I got curious. Why are these
Mm-hmm.
people telling me to put my money in a SEP IRA? My husband and I were building our business at the time. Well, we're always building our business, but and I went to my bank. We won't talk about what bank it was, but it rhymes with Chase, and um, they said I can't even transfer you to someone because you don't have enough liquid worth, enough liquid cash. And I thought I was doing pretty good. I was like, man, I'm saving. I got, 50 grand. I'm doing good. Let's go. Called them. She's like, I can't even transfer you because they won't take your call. And I thought, well, if I'm not being helped, there's a lot of other people that aren't being helped.
Yeah,
So I
there's a lot
said,
of
well,
people.
forget you. I'm taking my money and I'm going to the local credit union. Well, they tried their best to help me. But that's when someone said, oh, just put your money here in a SEP IRA. It'll be fine. Fast forward 2008, 2009. Guess what? It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, and then I realized, well, shoot, I need some answers. I need to become that steward of my money. Um, because it wasn't working out, especially entrepreneurs, people that are self-employed.
Right.
Because you tend to go from deal to deal, from gig to gig, and not think about the long term ramifications of not saving. So that's why I
Yeah.
do what I do.
Right. Yeah. It's really important. And I would not have done it, and I had not have done it until my husband passed away, and
Mm.
his pension was released, and I was like, I can't put that in the bank. That's ridiculous. And I had to, you know, get an advisor, and in getting an advisor, um, I'm still nervous about it. I watch the money. It hasn't made a penny, but I talk to a lot of people, and they're all saying the same thing. I'm very, uh, risk aversion because I'm 68. So I'm not looking to make thousands. I'm looking to make a few and maintain. But the market is awful. And as I said, I look at it once a month, not every day, because that would drive me crazy. Right? That would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
So, people will say, oh, well, I have my money, in a stock. So talk a little bit about diversifying and the concept of diversifying, if
Mm.
you can.
Um, It's interesting because I love watching old videos of Warren Buffett and his business partner, and they're hilarious. But Warren will be the first person to tell you that he does not diversify. Like he keeps his money in a couple of different things, but that's it. Um, and
But
the more
he's prepared to pivot.
is he prepared to pivot?
Yeah.
Pivot into what?
Well, if he's got his money in one thing, God forbid it should be Enron. If he's got his money in one thing or a few different things, right? He's got to be aware of what it's doing. He's got to be plugged in, listening to the news, aware of what it is. So he's got to be able to pull it if he needs to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why he's got a couple of different things that he has his money in, but not it's not all over the place, right? It's
Right. No,
not in
no.
in
I would
10,
never.
20 different things, right? He's not
Right.
going in an Ethereum and all of that.
No, no,
Um,
no. But you just don't buy stocks. You just don't buy stocks.
yeah,
I mean,
individual
you can play
stocks.
with stocks. but you just, it can't all be in the stock market.
Right.
And I'm the last one to understand bonds and all of that stuff and mutual funds. I mean, I know what they are. I understand the financial market. Essentially, there's short term and there's long term. They're playing with your money and you're hoping that they're going to win because they're smarter than you are. So that's what you do. That's as much as I know.
Individual stocks, I call that my Las Vegas money, right? That's my play money where I think I'm like, this big investor and I have my individual stocks. I don't bank on that. That is not my retirement. That is money that I have to be willing to lose. And plus, think of it as an elevator shaft. Okay. Do you want one cable holding up the elevator shaft or do you want multiple cables holding up your elevator shaft? What's going to be stronger if one of those cables breaks? When you're an individual stock, that one cable breaks, that's it. So that's your play money, right? But then there are these things that you can group together: the funds, the mutual funds, the exchange traded funds, the ETFs, and that's where they group them together. Whether it's medical devices, whether it's technology, you know, gold, whatever it is. You're grouping it together. Now there's a little bit more. So if one of those fails in there, that's okay because you have 6 others that are doing good.
Real estate.
Yeah, different things. I'm not big on diversification because I'm over 50, so my risk is much lower. I don't have time to lose money and then 4 or 5 years to gain it back.
Right. That's why I'm risk averse. I would just like to see it sit there and not have to play with it a tremendous amount. But I do have the financial agent that's able to do that. To say,
Right.
Okay, we thought that this was a good fund and it's been sitting there for 6 months and we're going to pull it out and do this because it's not, performing the way we wanted it or whatever. There's a new one, whatever. When I mention real estate, do you dabble in actual real estate, like telling people to buy real estate, not only to invest in real estate, but buy real estate?
That's an interesting question because I'm looking into it. I won't do it myself. I will hire somebody to assist me with that because um, you need a team. If you're going to be a real estate investor and that's going to be your business, that's going to be your money, that's going to be your income, you need a team. First and foremost, you need a team of legal people. You need a team of real estate agents. You need people that know so much more than you. So I stay in my lane. I stay in my
that makes
lane.
sense.
But do I want to check it out? I found somebody who's been doing it for the past 30 years, and she's gone through the whole entire real estate gamut. So I would go to her in a second to assist me. Say, if I had, extra 50 grand, what can we do with this? Extra 100 grand. What can you do with this? Because it is her mission to show people how to invest in real estate, but they don't have to be the professionals. She's a professional, right? Just know enough.
So know your limits.
Right. Stay in your lane. Know enough to be dangerous, but know that you must have someone on your team that can handle that for you. Because if that's not what you want to do, then don't do it. And it takes a lot of skill and a lot of time to learn the ins and outs of real estate investing. It's not something that you just jump into. Homeownership.
What about yeah, I know, right? What about, you're up late at night and you're watching the commercials and suddenly the gold commercials come on. It's like, buy gold.
Sure, why not? It's,
Have
you know,
I mean,
but think
what's
of
the
it as your
concept
Vegas
there?
money. Think of it as Vegas
Again,
money. Again, are you going to put your entire retirement fund in precious metals?
yeah, the
I
thing
don't
that
know.
kills me about gold is that when they talk about it, I'm like, okay, I understand. So you can make money in gold, but the fear mongering that they try to get you to invest in the market doesn't really logically pan out, because what are you going to be walking around with? In the case of a huge crash, gold bars, are they really going to give you gold bars? So if there's a crash, you're going to crash too.
Yeah,
You're not getting them. So, it's not crash proof. And they're
yeah,
making it sound like it's crash proof. It's not.
no. Um, it's probably a little bit safer on the investment side. But there are, once again, funds. You can purchase
Right.
funds within that
Right.
space, but you can also actually purchase gold bars. From what I understand, now I stay in my lane. Gold is not my skill set. From what I understand, if you actually have gold or gold bars, you have to have a housing unit for it. And so there
Mhm.
are specific banks, so to speak, that you have to utilize to put the gold into. So it's not just as easy as, oh, I've got this gold bar, here you go, let me slap it on the counter when I go pay for gas.
Well, that's
Um,
what I'm saying. It's like when push comes to shove, God forbid there should be something where there's a catastrophe, which is what the FOMO is, that they're trying to get you to buy the gold. If there's a catastrophe, what are you going to do with the gold? I would say, oh, if somebody came to me and said, "Oh, you have water? I'll give you gold for water." I'll be like, "Hell no! Water's water's a lot more meaningful than your gold. Who's going
yeah.
to buy the gold? The government is the only one who's going to buy the gold." No,
Well, at
Tom
that
from the
point, the government would take your water.
it, well, that's what I'm saying. It's so I'm like, I get it, but I don't get it. I
Right.
get it,
So
but I
that's your
don't get it.
fun money. That's your Vegas money. You got to be willing to
Right?
like just, you know, get a couple bars. You're like, oh, I've got gold. Um, you
Yeah.
know, that sort of thing. But it's not going to be your financial independence, right? Gold is
Right.
is not going to be your financial independence. And that's where Warren Buffett has two rules of investing. Rule number one is never lose money. Rule number two is don't forget rule number one. And and I live by that. So it piss me off when my mutual funds go down and I'm like, why am I in this fund? What am I doing? So I'm going to be taking hard look at my mutual funds. I'm going to be taking a hard look at stuff that I am losing money in, because I don't want to lose money. Just call me crazy. So I'm not big in diversification. I'm in, the majority of my savings is within the LERP system. It's a life insurance retirement plan. That's the majority, and that's where I systematize my savings. It's in that. Why? Because I know that my money is not going to be lost. I can't go below a certain amount. Um, and two, because upon my death, it blossoms. It will double, triple, depending on how much money I have in there. And three, it's fairly liquid. Like I can call my company on Monday and have some funds deposited into my bank account by Tuesday or Wednesday. Liquid.
And that's important for some people. That's very
It
important
is.
for some people.
It is. So heaven forbid somebody gets into an accident. If your money is in stocks, it's not liquid, right? You need to have your money needs to be protected against market loss, and it needs to be liquid. It needs to have growth potential. So there's a couple of different things that you want. You have to want a good rate of return. You have to know where your money is. Is it protected? Are you gaining money on it? And three, how liquid is your cash? How liquid is your money? Because if it's in real estate, guess what? Are you going to sell your house in a day and then have the funds the next day? It's
Right.
not liquid.
Right.
Um, so that's, and if you look at the majority of people, wealthy people, or the S&P 500, because they have to report their numbers every year, where's the majority of their money being placed? It's being placed within life insurance, because you've never heard of an insurance company crashing or going under, unless it's like Bob's Insurance Company. You hear about the banks all day long going under,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
life insurance and insurance companies, no, you won't. They're too big to fail. So
That's another good topic. Life insurance. So that's the only thing that I did for myself when I was 35. I
good.
bought myself a $50,000 whole life insurance policy because I figured that's enough to bury me and enough to give somebody a few dollars. It's not a big
Mm,
deal. I can deal with it, and it's whole life, so I have it forever. It's mine.
yeah.
Doesn't go away. Um, and there are a number of people that don't have that. I mean,
Mm.
if you work for a company, you may have that. But if you don't work
But
for a
what happens
company,
if you don't work for the company anymore? You get fired or
right?
laid off.
Yeah.
You don't have it.
I mean, right. And that's important. So, I MetLife. All right, I'm plugging. I'm not going to say the company, but it rhymes with MetLife.
Right? Yeah.
So I got a MetLife policy, and they've been around for 1,000 years, and I still have it.
Yeah.
And I know that it's I can be buried on that money,
Yes.
and that's the only reason I got it.
Right. Um, Life insurance, it's not for everyone, just for people that love their families. Um, Sorry if that hit you.
No,
I didn't mean to miss you on that one.
no,
Because
it's quite true. It's like because you don't think you need it. Like, what do I need it for? And
it's
and
not for
I,
you,
it's
though, because you're no longer
exactly what
with
do I
us.
need it for?
It's not for
It's
you. And that's what a lot of people think. It's like, oh, I don't need that. Oh, you're right, you don't. But what about your
no,
loved ones that you're leaving behind? Like, really?
exactly.
Have you
I
not
mean, it costs
thought
at least ten
that
thousand
far?
dollars to be buried. At least ten
Easily.
thousand dollars to be buried, at least, and
Easily.
that's cremated as well.
Trust me, my sister and I found that out the hard way when my mom passed. I
Hmm.
was like, it cost how much to cremate? I'm like, but aren't you just putting her in a really hot oven and then putting
Hmm.
her in a jar?
You've got to put her in a box. It's one of those it's not the high end box. They want to sell you that box, and you're like, but
Right.
that box, you got to put that box right.
In
No,
the oven. Yeah. But I found
I
that
am.
out the
I've
hard
buried
way.
three. I've buried four people.
Yeah.
Four
It's
people.
it, it's not cheap. And um I'm tired of seeing GoFundMe and going to the church. The church was not meant to bury your relatives, first and foremost. And then GoFundMe's were made for small businesses that wanted to get their businesses off the ground. It wasn't meant to bury your family. Um, and if you think that it's more important to have insurance on your cell phone than yourself as a breadwinner, then you're getting it twisted. And sorry if that
Right?
hit you, it didn't mean to miss you, because I do get tired of seeing that. And I do get tired of people saying, oh, I don't need that. Um, we don't need that. So if a breadwinner dies, or get this, has a heart attack and doesn't die, but they can't work, then what do you do? So you're not protecting the breadwinner, who's the most important person in the family unit. Um, but you're going to protect your cell phone. That I don't understand. That doesn't make sense to me. Um, and people think it's this massive amount of money that you need to have, or they think that it's too expensive for them. It's too expensive for you not to, because nowadays people are having strokes and heart attacks not over 60. We're talking, 30 and up. Um, and usually with a stroke or heart attack, you don't die, but you're not working. So when you're not protecting the breadwinner, especially single parents, you're not doing your family a favor at all. Um, so that's a real passion of mine. And wills and trusts. Hello.
Yeah.
Why didn't Princess Diana have a will and trust? Why didn't Prince have a will and trust? Um, I can go on. There's a whole list
My
of people,
brother-in-law not have a will and trust.
and people think it's expensive. But just like I was talking with a client, she's like, I heard it was really expensive. And I'm like, who are you talking to? I said, it doesn't need to be expensive.
No, it can be
Just
pretty simple.
it's simple,
And the
get
thing
it
is,
on paper.
people will pay, talk about, cell phones. People will buy a new cell phone. It just comes out. People will buy a pair of sneakers, a brand of sneakers whose name, no, I'm not going to do the name rhymes with. They'll buy expensive sneakers, but they won't take care of themselves.
Yeah. Or well, it's not even really so much themselves, it's their family, it's the people that they're leaving
Right.
behind. Um, Especially if you, once again, are a single mom or single dad and you have children under the age of 18, they go into the system. They don't go to the godparents unless you have it in a will and trust. Is it written down? Is it in writing? Is it a legal document? Um, Even myself, like my son just turned 18. He's like, Mom, can you call the doctor and get my test results? I said, I can't. Right. So now what I have to do for my son is I have to go get a power of attorney on my son, because
Right.
if anything happens to him, I can't go in the hospital and say, hey, see this? This is my power of attorney. That's my son. I'm going to handle this. I can't. I need to go in and take care of this. And people
Mm-hmm.
don't understand that either with your spouses. You need to have one on each. Otherwise, with all the
Right.
rules and
Oh,
regulations,
if you've ever talked to Social Security, you're like, I'm calling in behalf of my husband. Is he there? I'm like, hold on. I gave him the phone. He would say, yeah, I allow my wife. In the meantime, I could do the same thing. I could say, hold on. Hello, this is Mr. Brooks. But they. I'm not telling people to do this, but I mean, I've had this with doctors and so
with
insurance
doctors.
companies, because I took care of my husband's all of his healthcare needs and called his providers, and they wouldn't talk to me.
No.
Over time, they would. Over time, they would. Because
Yes.
you can get the papers sent to you, then you get them signed, then you send them back, and then they recognize you as the advocate. But you
Yeah.
have to do all those things.
Yeah. In
I don't know
advance,
who's going to do
because
that for me, but that's besides the point.
getting a power of attorney on somebody that's already in the hospital, injured, what have you. Let me tell you, doing it on the back end, it takes a while, right? So having this stuff done doesn't mean that it has to cost a fortune. It just means that you have to take the time to sit down with someone, educate yourself just a little bit, right? You don't want to become an estate attorney. I mean, unless that's your jam, but just to ask questions, get clarity, um, because you can't unlearn what you learn. And that's what we do for people. We educate
Mhm.
them, because you have to be the steward of your family. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first. So,
Even what would you say what would you recommend to a woman, a young woman, maybe she's not married, the least amount that she should be doing, let's say in her 30s?
as far as what savings
Um,
will,
that how should she be a custodian of her future, her money, her future? and a small amount of security?
That's a great question.
And you don't have to
First,
go into the details, but
yeah.
generally, what would you recommend? What would you suggest to a woman that she should begin to do?
Sit down with somebody, ask questions. I know I sound like a broken record on that, um, but get confidence and clarity as to what your money is doing. And then I asked somebody the other day, I said, would you rather buy a house right now or 10 years from now? What do you think is going to be cheaper? And he's like, well, right now. And I said, okay, say it's not real estate, manure. Would you rather buy manure now or 10 years down the road? Because what's going to be cheaper? get get a policy in place. A perfect example is my business partner, right? Somebody approached him about getting life insurance. And so he went to his parents and they were like, oh, you don't need to do that. You're too young. You're healthy. It's a waste of your money. But he thought about it and he went back to him and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead. It's, $20 a month, $25 a month. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. He's got 5 kids now. He didn't have the kids, wasn't married, just in a relationship. And he's like, I'm going to do it. So he went ahead and did it. Well, fast forward 7 years, he ended up diabetic. And guess what? You can't get when you're diabetic. You cannot get life insurance. So, did he do himself a favor? Absolutely. Did he do his future family a favor? Absolutely. Because he's married, got 5 kids now. But guess what? He's got this policy for the next 30 years. That's going to be a savior to him. Now, did he do the same thing for his kids? Absolutely. Because he doesn't want them to have to go through that same trouble. So if you're young, you're a female, protect yourself. You are the breadwinner. Protect yourself. Get a policy on yourself. Make sure the policy has living benefits because then it's actual life insurance. That means you can use it in the living. God forbid you have a stroke or a heart attack, you can pull from that and utilize it. Okay. You're not working. What's the thing people do if something medical happens? They got the retirement, right? So that's your wealth foundation protection, first and foremost, getting life insurance on yourself. Okay. And then are you saving systematically? Are you saving every month? Because I can guarantee you that if you're not saving when you're broke, you're not going to save when you have money. And that's just a fact. Get in the habit of systematically saving every month. And then when I ask people, what's the most important bill you pay every month? What do you think people say?
Oh, what's the more? It's going to either be rent or their phone
Right. Or a car. And I'm like, okay,
or
so
a car.
when do you pay yourself? And they're like,
Right.
oh, well, after everything else. I said, so why is your car or your rent more important than you? And I said, when you're paying yourself at the end of the month, what's left? And they're like, nothing. And I said, exactly. And that's what you're going to keep getting. Pay yourself first. Okay. You must be the most important bill you pay every month. I put my savings is in my expenses. That way I don't think about it. It comes out automatically every month. So start saving now. $50 a month, $100 a month. I don't care. Get in the habit. Make it more painful not to save than to buy the pair of shoes. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to make sure, especially if you have real estate, if you have assets, wrap it in a will and trust. It doesn't cost that much money. Um, and then I have a friend who does something called Life Planner. I'm going to recommend this to everybody. What she did in her profession was she went to all the crash sites for big airlines. Um, yeah, it's a terrible job. But what she found was that parents didn't know anything about their children's assets, how to find their house keys, how to find their car keys. What did they have to do? They didn't have power of attorneys for their kids. Like, they didn't have any of this stuff in place. So I took a class and the gentleman called it a death box. Okay. As twisted as it sounds, you need it. Put a Google spreadsheet together. Put your passcodes on it. Give that information to a brother, a sister, a mom, a dad. Give them your passcodes. Tell them where your car keys are at. Tell them where your house keys are at. Tell them where your safe
Put a
keys are
plan
at.
together. Put
Put
a put
that
a put
life
an oh
plan
shit plan together.
I don't care if you're 30. Life happens to 5-year-olds, to 10-year-olds, to 20-year-olds. So put that plan together. And that's what I would say to a 30-year-old woman. Kids, no kids, first and foremost, get a policy on yourself, because the younger you are, life insurance is based on two things: health and age. The younger you are, the cheaper it's going to be. Make sure you have some living benefits in it. Start saving systematically, right? And put a budget together. Know what your money's doing. First and foremost, what's your net worth? No, a lot of people don't know that. Put a budget together. You can figure out your net worth real fast once you put a budget together. And then put some sort of life plan in place after that, whether it's a will or trust, whether it's just a life plan, and Google docking something and send it to your sister, send it to your brother. And just in case something happens, these are all my passcodes. This is who the beneficiary is to my life policy. This is where you find the information.
Yeah. It's not something people want to talk about, but I can only say from experience that when it happens and you're the unofficial executor, it's painful, stressful. Having done this, like I said, 4 times. I've done this 4 times for people that have not had wills. And in one case, the one case, the property was, the property was taken by the state because there was no will, and they just took the property.
Yeah.
And it was,
well, that's what happened.
He had a mortgage on the property, had nothing on the property. So I remember when my husband's brother passed away, and when it happened, while we were doing all the things that we were doing, my husband said to me, maybe we'll sell the house and move into Johnny's house. And I'm like, don't put money on that. Don't put money on that. The state may take that house. Oh, they can't do that. I'm like, oh, and they did. That's what they did.
Yeah, because there was no will and trust.
There was no will and trust.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what they did with Prince's estate. It took him, how long did it take him? Like 5 years, 7 years? Something crazy. His only living relative was his sister. And once they were said and done with his estate, then she got what was left.
Right, exactly.
And that's tragic.
Right. They didn't give her, they liquidated it and then they gave her cash, but they weren't going to give her the assets, the raw assets.
Heck no.
Unless she got herself like an incredible lawyer. She could have probably fought for it if she had had a lawyer, but that's ridiculous. Yeah. That's absurd.
But the people that you leave behind, the people you leave behind to deal with this, that if anything should be your motivation to get your things in order, because like my mom, my sister and I were like, what the heck do we do? Shoot. She didn't have anything in place, no life insurance, no nothing. We had to pay for everything. And it's not like you got $6,000, $10,000 laying around. A lot of people don't. And at the time, we just didn't, have $10,000 laying around to cremate her and bury her. So what are you doing? You're leaving your family in a stressful situation who has to come up with $10,000 to bury you. So they're going into debt, and they have to deal with all of the stuff that you left behind.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you ever get involved in
conversation?
Yeah, really. These are uncomfortable conversations that need to be had.
Yeah.
Need to be had. Do you ever get involved in, and I don't know what it's called, when people invest in homes for themselves, that, I don't know what it's called. There are so many different retirement programs these days. I mean, you could buy property in a in an area where it's 55 and over, and there's packages that you could buy in that neighborhood where it's 100% care, right? And then there's lots of those types of situations. One of the things that I learned, and when a loved one gets sick and you say, okay, it's time for them to go into a home, all that money is confiscated by the process. It's gone, all of it. There's not a penny of it, not a penny. So it's a difficult situation. You think, oh, dad's 88 and now he can't take care of himself, so it's probably time to put him in a home. And once you think that, it's time to get his money all his money out of his own name. And now it's like 5 years. They'll go back 5 years. So if it's not, I mean, you don't think of these things, and you should be.
Yeah. Because if they see that you gifted money within that time frame, like you were just talking about, they're going to go back and get it. You can't hide. And this is long-term care at its worst. You're waiting for a bed. You're not going and choosing the lap of luxury long-term care facility. You're waiting for a bed to open up, God knows where, and hoping that you get into a decent situation. One of my business partners, his dad was a CEO of a huge oil company, rhymes with Chevron, and
Hearing a lot of that.
So he made good money, right? They had some decent investments, and being in our business, he was able to get some stuff in place. Not everything, but when it came time, both of his parents got sick right around the same time. And when he tells this story, I'm floored. He paid between $20,000 and $30,000 a month for long-term care. Okay, that consumed all of his parents' retirement. Can I just tell you? Then not too many people can afford 20 to 30 grand a month for long-term care.
Yeah, they just take it.
It was gone, but he got a good facility for the best care for his mom and dad, because that's how he had set everything up for him. But people don't understand, long-term care costs on average between $3,000 and $6,000 a month, and that's for a semi-private room. Now, when you're going with the state through here, it's Medi-Cal, through Medi-Cal, Medicare, you're waiting for a bed, and you have to liquidate all your assets. Whoever's left behind, of course, can stay in the house, and they have a certain amount of money they can live off. But when that's not taken care of, you're asking your family once again to make sure to take care of it for you.
Yeah, this is one thing that gives me nightmares for myself, because I'm single.
Yeah.
I'm a widow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, it will be too late that when I'm saying to myself, oh, I need help, it's going to be too late at that point. So when do I say to myself, it's time for me to put a plan together? Do I plan for, I mean, here I am asking you, like, you're going to help me here. Do I plan, do I find out about a plan that can help me at home? And do I invest in that? Do I pay for that? What do I do? Because I would rather have some And then again, it could happen in 10 years, it could happen in 15 years. Maybe I'll be 100 and I'll be like, right, bright as a light, and I won't need it. But
Yes.
then 101, I will need it, really. So, how do I know that a company I invest in now is even going to be available in 20 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
30 years?
You have to
So,
put that in
what do
will
you
and trust.
do?
You have to put it in will and
Right?
trust. But you also need to look at long-term care. I mean, I talk to people that are over the age of like 35, 40. I talk to people about
There's
that.
certainly that.
What are you going to do about long-term care? Because the thought of my children wiping my butt when the time comes is not attractive. And guess what? I don't think they're going to find it attractive either. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that to them. I saw what my dad went through with my stepmom, and it 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 made him die a little bit more having to take care of somebody in a long-term care situation.
Yeah. I mean, who better than somebody who loves you, but saddling them with all of that without having any support. That's, some amount of support. When my mom and dad, she was 75, he was 80. He needed a little bit more help, and she died first because he was sucking all of her energy. God bless their souls. So, in many cases, it's the advocate that goes first, not the sick one.
Mm. And I'm seeing that with
And
my
and,
dad.
and that's, so we had said to my mom a number of times, why don't you get somebody to come in once, twice, 3 times a week? You could take a bath. You could go in the bedroom, close the door, and read, right? But these days, you say that and you're like, well, what kind of care is going to come to the home? These are the
Mm.
things that are awfully scary. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's
so
you've got to
you
have a
can
plan
invest
in
in some sort of a long-term package.
place. You can. Yes, absolutely. I have one for myself. I have one for my husband. Um, I'm a huge advocate of that. Once again, there are certain things you can do of where it's not strictly just a long-term care plan. You can combine
Hmm.
it combined with other things. Um, so looking in, talking to somebody about that because it is expensive for long-term
Yeah.
care. And you being a widow, well, who do you have to fall back on that? Who is going to help you when the time comes? And we're not talking long-term care is not for old people. If you look at the statistics for it, it's people starting at the age of 40, will need it. And whatever that looks like, chronic, critical, long-term care, this is stuff that you must put into place. Are you going to saddle your family with that responsibility? Yeah.
Is it something that how does it, I can't think of the word. If you pass on, what happens to that long-term care? So
It
you've never
depends on what
used it.
kind
You just like, it's
of
a,
it depends on what kind of
okay.
package you have. Like the newer
Okay.
long-term care, the policies are they're pretty good. Like they'll give you a certain amount of money back. But it really depends on what kind of policy you have in place. Um,
Mm.
Now, I don't know if you heard the state of Washington actually implemented a long-term care tax. Okay. But guess
Mhm.
what? If you're over a certain age, you're not going to you don't get to utilize access to those funds. Um, and what they've made happen is that you can't buy an independent long-term care solution or policy because, oh no, we've got this tax in place now. Okay, great. So California is going to kick in pretty soon. They're doing the same thing. There's 7 or 9 states that are going to be kicking in over the next year or two, implementing that long-term care tax. Look out for it. It's coming, and get something in place. My husband and I have long-term care. Thank goodness. with our Index Universal Life. We don't do whole life because Index Universal Life allows for a lot more flexibility. You get a lot more money, a lot more cash value. It blossoms at the end when somebody passes. Plus, you can put long-term care on it.
Okay.
So now I can utilize my cash for when the time comes for my long-term care. I can use it for whatever I want, but it has a long-term care capability built into it. So not only am I growing cash in a tax-free environment, I
Mhm.
have long-term care attached to it.
Are the life insurance companies like MetLife, Mutual Life, those are the companies that deal with these types of packages? Where, I mean, let's say I'm looking to talk to people, so I probably would start perhaps with a large company, right?
Mm,
Call a large company like John Hancock and say, what kind of packages can you offer me? Insurance, what types of things do you have available? Edward Jones, right? Those types of companies. And maybe
mm.
I'll call MetLife, and then maybe I'll look for advisors. So it probably would be a good idea to have a conversation with all these people and not put the money down, just educate yourself.
Yeah.
And
and
ask other people,
again,
like, do you have an
asking
advisor?
those questions, asking those questions. I don't really have an advisor per se. My business partner, um, to take money is emotional. Let's just face it. And so I don't want to make those big financial decisions because I'm too attached. So I ask him, and he handles all of my accounts, anyways. So I don't do anything.
Mhm.
And my mentors are like, don't do anything, don't make any major purchases, don't do anything without talking to us first, so we can
Yeah,
guide
yeah.
you
Oh,
and help
absolutely.
support you.
Absolutely.
And I don't. And there's a handful of companies that do long-term care policies, and a few that'll do long-term care attached to cash value life insurance. You really you want to find something that's going to give you just not just strictly a policy, but what do you get on the back end for it? Like, am I just putting my money into an empty bucket, like just filling this bucket up? Or what am I getting on the back end? Am I going to get cash back from this? Um, if I don't utilize it, like what's going to happen? And the reason why I use the Index Universal Life is because I get long-term care. Guess what? If I don't use the long-term care, then I get the cash, and I can use the cash for whatever I want. If I want to buy a boat, I could. And when I pass, my cash plus my insurance combine together and they blossom into this beautiful legacy that I leave behind for my children.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so that's what I do for my clients, especially clients over 40, especially clients that are widows, that are single. Yep. Talk to people. Talk to
It's
people about it.
it's important.
Yes,
There are lots of
absolutely.
different laws in different states, so um, that can be critical to get somebody that's aware of all the ins and outs. Like you had mentioned, taxes. So there are things that are happening in some states that are not happening in others, and it's not necessarily you're looking for loopholes as much as you're looking to be sure that you're protecting your money, in the best way.
Yeah. What we need to understand is that the government's not here to save us, and the least amount of government fingers that we have in our money, the better off we're going to be, because they don't know how to manage finances. They've put us almost $40 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
And if you think that they're going to manage your money, then we need to have a conversation, because you want to be managing that yourself and protecting yourself. The government is not going to take care of you long term. Um,
No.
the state's not going to take care of you long term. And single parents, widows, we've got to get some things in place for you, first and foremost, that you can advocate for yourself when the time comes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there any? I mean, we definitely gave everybody some damn good tips. Is there?
Right?
Are there
There's
any
some
things? Anything that we left out here?
Oh man. And there's so much information. And where do you go? Who do you talk to?
You know
Just
what?
talk
What
to
I found
someone.
oftentimes, um, people like yourselves will go to libraries and do like talks at libraries.
Mm,
So that's I have I think I have a flyer somewhere where there's a discussion on retirement. So
yes.
I mean, go to one of those. Usually, it's a person like yourself. Um, you just begin to get information, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's what we do with clients, potential clients, um, even our agents, our business partners. We've got to put our own oxygen mask on first. We make sure that our families are taken care of first and foremost, because without that foundation, how are we going to go out and support our clients? How are we going to say, no, you need long-term care? And then they ask, well, do you have long-term care? And you're like, no, I don't do that. That's for everybody else. That's like being a barefoot shoe salesman.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, no, you got to buy these shoes. And then you look down and they're wearing no shoes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that it just doesn't make sense. So um, become your own advocate and reach out to me. That's my call to action. Call me, email
Mm-hmm.
me, send me a smoke signal, reach out to Joy. Sit down with me, ask me questions. Come with a list of questions. And guess what I'll
Mm-hmm.
do? I'll do my best to answer them. We'll get some financial education, a basic financial education for you. We're going to keep it simple. And then we're going to go from there. And hopefully you'll get some value from it. And if you have more questions, if you want to sit down with somebody else, an estate planner, say, man, I've got 2 young kids, we've got 3 properties. Even if you have one house that you're living in, you need to have a will and trust. Um, sit down with an estate attorney. We can do that. It's
Mm-hmm.
complimentary. All it costs is 20 minutes of your time, 30 minutes of your time to ask questions, find out how much it's going to cost, find out what they do. That's my
Mm-hmm.
call to action, is to call me, do a needs analysis, get some
People
financial
find
education
you. How can
questions.
people connect with you?
You call me, send me a text. Yes.
So,
I'm at 213
so
344
are you on the
6337.
web or should they? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I am.
Without giving your phone number out, how can people connect with you?
Yeah. Connect with me. You can connect with me on social media. I'm in the process of building out my website, so I'm not going to give that information right now. But email me, talk to Joy. Joy knows how to get in touch with me, or reach out to me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn under Kirsten Jacobsen, KirstenJacobsen. You can find me there. You can find me on Facebook. Same thing, Kirsten Jacobsen 70. Yes, that was the year I was born. um, reach out to me anywhere. I'm not hard to find.
I appreciate you giving us some really actionable tips. It's unusual. People just they sometimes don't want to do that, and I really appreciate it because this is really important, and a lot of people don't do it because it's complicated and it's personal and it's emotional, like you said.
Yeah. And you know what? Was it Einstein that said it's the power of taking something that's complicated and making it simple? That's the true power. It's only as complicated as you make it. And I am not the smartest, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I got to keep things simple. I like things simple. I'm visual. We have visual stuff, and just breaking it down for people is really important. Um, so yes, call me, reach out to
Okay.
Joy, do action, because not doing anything or doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, is a definition of insanity. So you can do something about it, or you can be the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And if that hits you, it didn't mean to miss you.
Yeah, procrastination is will bite you in the butt.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They died suddenly. I hear that all the time.
That's the
Uh,
point, That is the point. It's not when everything is hunky dory.
no,
And that's when you should
no,
have everything in place. When everything is hunky dory. Because
everything.
when it's
Yeah.
already going downhill, it's almost too late.
Yes. And I heard you say that before. It is too late. When you're in the thick of it, when you're in the fire, it's too late.
Too late.
When somebody's already passed or had a heart attack,
Right.
it's
And you're
too
looking
late
for
to get life
insurance,
insurance.
it's too late.
No, it's too late. So do it now. Make later now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my business partner always says. Make later now. And I'm like, gosh
Yeah,
darn
just
it.
get it over with. It's one of those things. Just get it over with. It's like
Yeah,
the
rip the
Band-Aid.
Band-Aid
Just rip it off. Get it
off.
over with.
Yeah,
Get it in place, and it's done.
yeah. And look at your numbers. What
Yeah,
is
yeah,
your
yeah.
money doing? What
Yeah,
is
yeah,
your money? It's not scary. It's not scary when you go and swipe that card, is it? It should be
right.
scary on the back end, knowing what your numbers are doing.
Hmm. I used to look every day, and then I was like, okay, I got to stop this because this is stupid.
It
Up,
must
down,
drive
up,
you
down, up,
crazy.
down. Whoa, whoa, oh. I'm like, come on. So it's
That's like
once
an
a month.
emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, yeah. It's once a month. It's once a month.
Gosh.
And then
Yeah.
like it's 6 months. It's I look at it once a month, so I have a spreadsheet, and then on occasion I'll contact the investor, and I'll have a
Hmm.
conversation. And in my case, it's a company, but it's with two. It's a father and son,
Hmm.
and the son is as sharp as a tack. So I figure, okay, well, the father's going to retire one of these days, but the son will still be there. So I'll still have the same guy, and he's going to outlive me for sure. So
Well, that's good that you found somebody
yeah,
that you
yeah,
like and that you trust and that is supporting you, because I found a financial person, and guess what? After they placed my money somewhere, God knows where they put it, um, I could never get in touch with them.
that's the Bernie Madoff syndrome. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm like, what? Well, what the heck? So that's another reason why I do what I do, is because when you call me, when you text me, when you email me, I'm going to get right back to you, because I know what it feels like for somebody to not reach out
Yeah,
and not care. Um, and nobody's going to care more about your money than you do. And if they say they
that's
do, run
why.
away from them.
Yeah, that's why I ask around,
Yeah,
touch
ask
base.
around.
Don't just
Yeah,
just don't let it go,
mm-mm, no.
and don't put it all in the bank.
Oh gosh, the banks are not your friend. The banks are there to loan you money, and that's that. Um, so yes, well, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate it. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much, and have um, have a lovely life.
Mm.
Live
Well, we're
long
going to
and
stay in touch.
prosper.
Yeah,
Yes,
live
we
long and
will.
prosper. And Joy and I are going to stay in touch. So, yeah, but I can't even do
I
it.
could do
Uh,
that. I could do that.
uh, that's a skill right there. You,
I
Joy,
know it
you
is.
could put that on your resume.
I know I could do that. I don't know what that
Automatic.
means, but I could do that. I could also wiggle my ears, but we won't go there.
Oh, that's the talent that
I
is
know, but that's
exuding
that's
from this
along the lines
conversation.
of making faces, so I'm not going to do that for the audience.
Well, you absolutely should, because
Maybe I'll
what if
do
you got
that
the
someday.
flu?
I'll just like pull it and go wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
What what is your talent? Like, doesn't The Rock, can't he make his chest like
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's
I'm
pretty
like, how does
amazing.
he do
He's got some damn good muscles going on. That's what he's doing. He's got some damn good muscles.
My sister can take a cherry stem and tie it in a knot with her tongue. And I'm like,
Oh.
I tried. We spent many a night.
I've got a friend that can spit a squirt water out of her tongue. The underneath, she puts water, squirts out. I'm like, that's, yeah. Are you a lizard? What the heck is that all about?
Oh my gosh. I haven't found that talent yet. Oh,
The thing is, how did she discover that she could do that?
indeed.
And
It was by
we'll leave our
accident.
audience with that question. What
Yes.
what unfound talents do you have?
Yes, absolutely. We want to know. Put it in the
We
chat.
want, yeah, right. Put it below. Let us know your unfound talents below. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. And call me, guys. Do a needs analysis. Let's go. Ask some questions.
Go.
I'm ready.
There
Take
you go.
care.
Thanks so much. Bye bye now.
Bye.